episode for a while, or film by film for a while. Let's mix it up and see what ends up happening with this one. And, you know, if we enjoy it, let's keep doing it. If not, and we realize, wow, we've just spent the last 40 hours talking about one show and half the year's passed, huh? Maybe we might not be the best idea.
Yeah. I'm
Cool.
okay with doing it that way.
Awesome. Also, you never know if it works until you try. That's what I've heard.
Exactly. Give
Like
it a
weird
try.
sex positions. You never know till you give it a go.
Very true.
All right. On that positive note, hello everyone. How do you do?
Hi guys.
So we're talking about a little show called Arcane. Everyone's raving about it. Everywhere I turn, it's like, oh my god, Arcane!
Yeah.
So
Lots and lots of YouTubers are like, this is good, you should watch it. And it's like, it's nice to see instead of people like dunking on stuff, because stuff has been genuinely bad the past couple of months.
I would say years.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, even The Drinker gave it a positive review, so I'm like, oof,
Mm-hmm.
god damn.
Yeah, it's good. If the drinker's like, I recommend this.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, you watched it as it came out, right? Like early December-ish.
No, I didn't watch it as it came out. I watched it when they were all out. I
Yeah,
think.
that's what I mean. Like Netflix, they just
Yeah, they were
dumped
all
it
out.
all anyway, so.
No, actually, they only brought out like half of it, and then the other half later on because my brother watched it as it was coming out, and he was like, "It's all right for you. You could binge it all together." He was like, "I had to wait," and I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
I didn't realize
interesting.
Netflix did that." Yeah.
I knew they did that with He-Man, where they released 5 episodes,
Mm.
then 5 episodes, and The Great Pretender, but like, I thought they all dropped it in one go. Interesting.
No, yeah. Apparently, Arcane was dropped in two halves. I was like, I'm glad I waited then. 1 second.
No problem, no problem. So, yeah, just all the audio is fine, the video is fine, it's all good, and we're ready to rock and roll. Now, if anyone who is unfamiliar, Arcane is based on the video game League of Legends. And if you don't know what League of Legends is, welcome to the internet, my dear fellow. I hope you have a gay old time, because the internet is a wonderful place filled with magical unicorns and cats with machine guns. But yeah, League of Legends, Arcane is a really interesting little show because it acts as a prequel, but from everything that I understand, it's not a direct canon prequel. Kind of like, I think I've heard someone describe it as the MCU, where it's not the comics, but it has some comic specific stuff within them. So it's kind of in the same vein, where there are certain aspects of the show that are related to the game, and there are certain aspects of the show that definitely are not. So there is very much the possibility that season 2 onwards could end up deviating heavily from the games, but who knows? That is for season 2 to let us know. And who knows when season 2 will come out. All we know is that it is announced and in production, which is really interesting. That they I mean, production can mean anything. It could be the script writing phase or the literal putting the animatics together phase, but you know, to each their own. Now, with regards to where you can find Arcane, you can find it on Netflix or the High Seas, whichever one you prefer. And it is only 9 episodes long, which is neat because you can watch one a day or you can binge it, considering the fact that each episode is around, you know, 40 minutes, at most 40 minutes long. And at
I'm
least it's
back.
going to be about 35 minutes long. And hello!
Hello.
I've just been waxing lyrical about Arcane all this time to fill the
Awesome.
time. Yeah.
That's fair. Sorry. Mikey decided to pull a Mike Myers on me and just like he was just there when I turned around. I was like, I think he's turning into a ninja.
Did he have a knife?
No.
Oh, you're still safe. It's fine.
Mm. But yeah, I was like, how long were you there for? He's like, a
All
while.
day. Like I've been behind you all day. Forever. It's
Probably.
like Drax from Infinity War, where Gamora and what's his face, Star-Lord were having a really intimate conversation, and this Drax in the
Oh.
corner with a bag of potato chips just going, I was here the entire time.
Yeah, it was very much like that.
Right. So, with all of that out of the way, Amy,
Hi.
who is your favorite character?
It's Jinx. If you know, it's always Jinx.
Why Jinx over the others?
I don't know. Her energy just gave me energy. If that makes any sense. I think I also really like Vi as well. So I think Jinx and Vi are my favorite characters.
Fair enough.
But I think I'd have to like make a top 10 of favorite characters because I really like a lot of them.
Yeah, there are a fair few good ones in there,
Hmm.
thankfully.
Yep. But yeah, I kind of also relate to Jinx a little bit. Because like I have BPD and like a lot of the shit that she goes through and like the way she behaves obviously after the shit that she goes through is very, very similar to what happens in terms of BPD where you can't control your emotions. Like it's not obviously hers is like exaggerated to the max, but it's very similar. So I guess I feel like a kindred spirit with her character, and I just think it was like it was kind of a really good way of explaining. Like, I'm glad they didn't just start it off with, "Oh, look, here's Jinx. She's crazy." We actually got to like see her as a kid for like 3 episodes, and then you can sort of understand why she behaves the way she behaves as a teen. I think she's a teen in the later episodes.
I am really unsure how much time
I'm
has passed,
unsure of
but
the
I'm
ages.
assuming teen, or at least
Yeah,
15, 16, 17-ish.
yeah. There's enough time passed because obviously, at first I was like, "How much time has passed?" Because like I feel like she'd need a while to get really good at using weapons and inventing stuff and crap like that.
Yeah, it really threw me off because when it comes to the Undercity, everyone has aged significantly, while everyone above ground, like Jace and Victor, have only aged like a
Yeah,
year or two. And
yeah,
I'm like, wait, so how much time has passed? I'm really
yeah. It's
confused.
very confusing. I think I said that when I was watching it with Ryan. I was like, "Wait, what? We're having a time jump? I don't like time jumps." And he's like, "Well, it isn't very long." And I'm like, "I don't care. Like, why is there a time jump in the middle of the show?" I don't
Like,
know. It just threw me off, and I was like, I understand why they did the time jump. And I mean, we did have 3 episodes where it was like setting up all the characters and stuff. So
honestly
it
though,
it didn't bother me too much, but it did still have like a time jump.
yeah, personally, I would have preferred if they started it at episode 4 and had episodes 1 to 3 as flashbacks, because we had the flashbacks anyway,
Point.
and it's like you had episodes 1, 2, and 3, and it explained a lot of things in terms of the setup to the world and all of that, which is great. But at the same time, it also does a bit of a reset on the characters because none of the characters as they were are where they are 3 years later, to the point where you may as well have started the show here.
Mm. But
So
I was like, could we have a montage of them like training or whatever, or can we have a montage of what happened to Jinx, after episode 3?
yeah, like an in-between segment of some sort, so
Yeah.
that we can fill in the gaps. Which is why I would have been much more. I would have preferred it far more if they started it where episode 4 starts and had a more in-depth flashback sequence. cut into every episode so that you can fill in the gaps accordingly, instead of having 3 episodes and then having a, a time skip like a third of the way into the show.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or maybe even just what the one episode, but I guess that would have been a very long episode.
yeah,
Because
like the
it's setting up all the characters' motivations, isn't it, and stuff. And I think they really wanted us to see this situation with Jinx and
yeah, like
Vi, because they really want to focus on their relationship.
yeah. I think as far as the core of the show goes, it definitely is Vi and Jinx, but because everything surrounding them is personally, I found everything around them far more interesting than the two of them themselves. I'm like, okay,
Oh,
cool, Jinx. Like, between the two, Jinx is definitely the far more interesting character because of everything that she goes through. I think Vi was probably my least favorite out of the group. um, for various reasons, which we'll get into. But yeah, it was odd because like the way they did it was perfectly all right because I still ended up enjoying the show and I thought it was quite well handled for the most part. But
mm,
I think personally I would have preferred if they did this as like a 25 episode season of an anime where you really took your time to explore everything and do the relevant flashbacks and the like so that you're not rushing through anything. You don't need massive time skips. You can just start at episode 4 and slowly make your way through it, ramping up the pace of events towards the season finale where we ended it.
yeah.
Um,
I think they just tried to cram too much into it, and I was like, I think
yeah,
they just maybe they were only like contracted for so many episodes, so they had to do it that way. I feel like that happens a lot with Netflix shows, is like they kind of have to work with the amount of time they're given, and I think if that's the case, I think they did what they could with it,
yeah.
and I still think it works.
Under the restraints, if that is indeed the case, I think they did an admirable job.
Hmm.
Um, season 2 is on the way, so hey,
Yep.
who knows what
I was like,
happens?
season two's been confirmed, so yeah.
um, so yeah, the structure of it was odd, but if they were under constraints from Netflix, then I think they did the best that they could. So
Yeah.
fair enough. Um, so with regards to characters, I think I mentioned earlier that Vi was probably my least favorite. I think the
Hmm.
reason why, and it's not that I don't like her, is that out of everyone else was so good that she was the least good of good, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of her agency is dependent on other characters, if that makes sense, because um, she's being dragged along by a lot of other characters in the narrative, and her primary goals and desires and drive ends up taking a backseat throughout a lot of it. And out of everyone in the show, I think she has the least of an arc so far. Who knows what they do in season 2? But in
Yeah,
season
I think
1,
maybe. Sorry, carry on.
no, fine. What were you going to say?
I was just, I think maybe this one they were trying to focus more on how the situation affected Jinx, and then I think maybe season two will get more into Vi because Ryan told me some things about the game because there is some lore. It's very like it's not like set in stone lore, but there is very loose lore, and it's about what happens to Vi. Because this is meant to be before League of Legends,
Yeah,
if I'm correct. So, like in the game of League of Legends, Ryan told me a few things that he thinks they might do in season two, but I don't want to say in case spoilers, unless you're happy
yeah.
to hear
I
it.
I
I'm not
don't really
saying
mind.
spoilers.
Who knows
Well,
what they'll do?
okay, it's yeah, true. So you know how I've forgotten her name, Caitlin.
Yeah,
She's like part of the police. Well, eventually in the game, Vi becomes one of them as well. So I was like, that'd be kind of cool that if she's on like she basically becomes a cop, and so she's got to like face against Jinx like multiple times because she's part of law enforcement, and I was like, that could be really cool if
Hmm?
they do that.
Yeah, big, big if.
Yeah. But I like that idea because it sets off sibling rivalry and also raises the stakes because obviously they're not going to want to hurt each other, but they may have to.
Yeah.
And I like that idea.
Now the question is, are they going to go in the route of Black
Yeah,
Widow, or are they actually going to do it justice? That's the real question. Because
we shall
those,
see.
oh God, I hope so. I mean, there's no release date announced as of this moment. It's still in production, so who knows when it's going to come out? Maybe it's 2 years from. Maybe it's a 2 year cycle like The Witcher. I don't know. But
Maybe. I
hmm?
do agree with you that Vi is kind of dragged along by other characters, like the dad figure. I forget his name. The guy with the big
Vander.
Vando. Yeah, I really liked him. But yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like she was more interesting when she was like playing off of him, and
yeah,
then she was more interesting when she was playing off of Caitlyn as well. Like I kind of really like them together because they bounce off of each other really well, and I got some genuine romantic tension between them.
yeah. Um, with regard, yeah, because her desire for, like, her goal in life was strongest during the past scenes with Vendor, because like she wants to create a better world for Powder, she wants to fight, she wants to do all of this, so her bouncing off of Vendor really made for an interesting dynamic. And thankfully they did have everything with Caitlyn happen. While this is a really weird instance, and it's something that's been popping up so much over the past couple of years. I have zero issue with the mechanics. Well, not the mechanics, but the individual points of the relationship between Vi and Caitlyn. Like, they start off
Mhm.
rough, they do things together, they get closer, they get romantically involved. I've got no issue with the arc they go through. My biggest issue
Mhm.
comes in the timeline of events. It's like, okay, so you went from that to that in a day and a half. I find that a bit odd,
To
personally.
be fair, though, like I say, they haven't like straight up just been like we're in a relationship. It just started to build on the tension. I don't think it was because it's not been explicitly said they're in a relationship.
Now, even if they're
So
not in relationship, to develop those strong feelings for each other, I find it slightly unrealistic it would happen that quick. Although, based on the events that
I
they
know,
go through, I can believe that it would happen, if that makes sense.
yeah, I was like it's almost like they trauma bonded.
Yeah, it's like in The Last of Us Part 2, where Abby, after having spent 4 years with the wolves, their brothers, sisters in arms, fighting together, surviving, meets two kids in the woods, and 2 days later, massacring the wolves. And I'm like, no, 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 this is too fast, no. So, thankfully, there was no massacres involved. Well,
Yeah,
of great degree, anyway. Um, but yeah, hopefully they do more with regards to development and progression with Vi in the second season. Catelyn, I thought, was a really interesting character.
dude, I
Um,
like it.
yeah, and I didn't realize she was played by Cho Chang from the Harry Potter movies. And I was like, oh.
I didn't know that either. I just found that out now. I was today years old when I found that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, I know that name. Where do I know that name from? And I was like, yeah, it was Cho Chang. Um,
Nice.
so yeah, like her arc. Oh, with regards to Catelyn, I don't think she has an arc per se. It was more development,
Yeah.
why she's doing the things that she's doing and the like. And her dynamic with the family was quite interesting in itself. It's
Yeah, like I think her arc seems to be I don't want people to just see me as a spoiled brat. Like I'm actually trying to do this job good.
yeah, absolutely. And I think there was this one moment where she was going in the shooting competition in the flashback that she was going. I think it was episode 4 or
Yeah,
something like that. And it was in the woods fighting. She gets the trophy at the end, and I was like, I can believe that you would be pissed off if she just let you have that trophy.
yeah,
So good. It really reinforces the integrity of the character, and very important. A um, a police, quote unquote, policeman of the sort. I don't know
I
what they're
think
called in this universe.
they're like
She's
gods.
not.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
she's
they're
not one of
like
the
cops.
enforcers, but
Yeah,
um, so yeah, it builds her integrity and her code of honor and stuff like that. Very good scene. Does a lot with the amount of time that it has. So big props on that. What I wish they do more is develop her and Jace's relationship, their friendship rather, because there's a lot that was left to the imagination. It's like, oh, I have a friend. It's like a friend that we saw for 5 minutes of screen time in total. So their bond wasn't nearly as well communicated. And again, if they had a bit more time to work with, it may have been beneficial. But that
yeah.
was probably one of the more disappointing aspects with regarding her arc.
Mm. I think don't forget there's a lot of characters in this,
I know
so
that's
I think that's probably why Vi and Kaylin and some of them didn't get as much development. Like I feel like Jinx got the most development.
possibly.
Like the most, she's the person that's changed the most from pilot episode to the end. Because obviously by the end she is like very far gone.
I think her and Victor are the two that had the
Yeah, I
most
like Victor.
dramatic. Victor was pretty gnarly.
I think
Uh,
he might be my second favorite character.
like I like a lot of what they're doing with Victor. I really wasn't a fan of the way the assistant ended up being dusted.
Yeah, it's like that was just why.
Yeah, because like it just so happened it was that night, and it just so happened it was that time, and it just so happened she came at that point. I'm like, you
You know
guys are
what?
really piling on the coincidences, aren't you?
Yeah, do you know what? It's because they need him to become a villain because he's gonna be a villain.
Oh yeah, hardcore. And then him and Jace's relationship being tested in the second season as a result of the villainisms. That was going to be really interesting.
Yeah. The later episodes, I was watching it with Ryan and I went, oh, so Jace is racist then?
Is he?
Kinda. Because he's like, oh, well, you're different to the other people down there. And it's like, okay, then.
I think it's more of a class thing more than a race thing.
That's true, actually.
um, which is odd. Like I think that was a really good arc that Jace
Classist.
went through as well. Went through as well
Yeah.
because like he started off on the same level, but then the more power he got, the more he
Yeah.
started to see the differences in the classes. I thought that was really interesting. Um, well, I'm glad that they went on with it because that was what they were hinting at. And speaking of
Yeah.
Jace, it's like, oh yeah, Victor happened to find him at that particular
Yeah.
point, at that particular. I was like, oh come on! Like, imagine if he like stumbled in the stairs and was like a minute late. It's like, oof. Well, goodbye, Jace.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I think from a narrative perspective, that's where I have a lot of the issues. It's a lot of coincidence, a lot of plot armor, and at times kind of like plot what anti-plot armor, where it's like the plot just outright kills you. It's like because you
Yeah.
have to die kind of thing.
Yeah. Like the poor kids in the start. I was like, that's dark. Okay.
Oh God, yeah. It's like, yeah, we need something really bad to happen, so we're just going to remove all the plot armor you've had. You've lived long enough. You've served your purpose.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro.
Time for you to die. Goodbye.
Yeah. Um, again, I think it speaks to time. Unfortunately, if they had more
Yeah.
time with the competence they handle the characters with, I gotta imagine they would have done really well with the narrative if they had more time.
Yeah.
Narr in the timeline in order to tell the story that is.
Yeah. I think that's why people like it so much because even though it's like very small episodes, there's still a lot done with the characters
Hmm.
and yeah, the narrative's full of coincidences, but it's still a fun time.
Very true, and having likable characters helps with that. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, I think we both agreed at some point that the Suicide Squad we watched was full of plotisms, but we loved the characters, so we had a great time watching it.
Yep.
And I think this falls in the same vein where, yeah, the plot's kind of tis me, but goddamn, the characters are good.
Yeah.
Okay, so out of curiosity, who is your least favorite character?
That's a tough one. I think.
I don't think there's anyone you outright hate.
No, there's no one I outright hate. I like Silco. I did feel like sometimes he just had too many on the nose cliche bad guy moments where it's like, yeah, we get it, you're a bad guy, move on.
Do you know what? Silco's my favorite character. I adore Silco. Thought his arc was wonderfully executed.
I enjoy his arc and stuff. I was like, this is very cliche. Would you stop with the cliche? Look how bad he is. It's like, we know he's a bad guy. You don't need to. Because he had, I think at one point he sat there with a cigar or he's doing something, and I'm just like, that's a cliche thing for a bad guy to do. Sit around being all, look at me, I'm evil.
Yeah, I mean, if cliches are a cliche for a reason, if it's done well, it's
Oh,
done
yeah.
well. But yeah, I do get what you mean. It's like the cigar.
It
The only
happens a
thing missing
lot
was the
where,
cat on the lap.
yeah. Like, it happened a lot though as well. Like, sometimes, like, you'd be reintroduced to him and he'd be doing something that it's typically bad. And I'm like, it's fine once or twice, but now it's just getting silly. Stop it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And, but yeah, it didn't stop me liking him. It just got a bit annoying after a while because I was like, you don't have to keep reiterating that he's the bad guy. We know. He's done some pretty horrible things up until this point.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe um, feel free to disagree with me, and I would love to hear your perspective on this as well. I feel at times they made sure to amp up the cliche villainisms to highlight his changes and the way he feels towards Jinx, and the the more he does villainous things, the more he comes to the conclusion that now he totally understands where Venda was coming from by the time he died and realizing the parallels. So rather than seeming weak, he wanted to reinforce the villainism so that he maintains power. Like that's kind of what I got from that.
Suppose. I suppose. I don't know. I think like his actions were fine. Like him behaving like in terms of
Or is
like
it more the portrayal of
it's the portrayal. It's
right?
the doing things like sitting there with a glass of alcohol in his hand and just not really doing anything, but just sitting there like I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but like when he was behaving like horrible to a person, like that didn't bother me. That didn't seem cliche. That seemed like genuinely him trying to hold on to his power. That made sense. But like when it was just straight up like doing things like knocking the kids' blocks over. I was like, we get it, you're a
Right.
bad guy.
Yeah,
That's
that was a bit
so
petty. Even I
cliche.
was like,
It's just
okay.
like, what are you doing? Yeah, like it was just some stuff like that, like where it seemed like he was doing, what a person who's just starting out to be a bad
Like
guy, like
cartoonishly. I get what you mean,
yeah,
like Gru from Despicable Me,
yeah, like
where he picks
Gru,
up the ice cream and tosses it on the ground just for
yeah,
shits and
pops
okay.
the balloon, stuff like that. That was the stuff that bothered me. Like him behaving like a bad guy towards other people. I'm like, yeah, I get it. That's a show of power because obviously people were trying to plan a coup and trying to like take him out of power. So I was like, that makes sense. But like knocking a kid's blocks over, there's no one around to see you do that, mate.
Except for the dad, I guess. But
I guess
like,
so, but the dad was already afraid of him.
I know it's like, yeah. But like, honestly, the way it was going, I thought for a second he was going to finish the puzzle, and it would have been like, look, that's how much
Yeah,
control I have over this moment. Know
that's
your
what we.
place. And I would have been like,
That's what me and Ryan thought was going to happen, and then we're like, oh, he just knocked him over. I'll be right back. Just one sec.
no problem. And you know what? I think I'm going to,
Mm,
and anyone listening will never know.
nice.
Okay, We were talking about Silco.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I totally get what you mean with regards to the cartoonishly evil moments that he has, where it's like, that seemed a bit out of character even for him. And it was like,
Yeah.
he is evil.
Yeah, I feel like that hurts his character a little bit. But not enough to make me not like him, because I did like him, because he very much had a very interesting like arc. Like he wasn't just being evil for the sake of it. He had a very almost like Jinx, a very tragic like reason for the way he is.
Yeah, I think everyone in this show has a really great starting point with regards to the justifications for what they're doing. And like I think the reason why I like Silco as much as I do has to go a lot with the fact that he started off being the full-on, right, everything's gonna burn character, going
Mm-hmm.
so far as to kill Vander, even though they were brothers in arms at one point. And then through Jinx, um, being like the father figure that Vander was to the two girls, and coming to understand Vander and his actions to the point where he himself was starting to replicate them, so much so to the point where he was willing to give everything up just to protect his daughter. I was like, yeah, I'm down with this. Fantastic. And I think the final episode truly was the best episode, and it encapsulates everything this show is about, as far as I'm concerned, because like this got a lot to do with acceptance in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone denial, fighting, anger, rage, and all sorts of things going on, and Vander was kind of ahead of the curve, where he's like, nah, he's accepted that this is the lot, but you know, making sure that the priority is to protect rather than try to destroy as a result of his own actions from when he was a young man. So it was really, really well put together show in terms of the thematics of it.
Yep, was good. I don't disagree with you.
Awesome. Um, but yeah, as soon as Silco's told Jinx, nah, you're perfect, that moment of acceptance where he's like, nah, you don't need to be anything other than my daughter, and that's perfectly alright, and fuck anyone else who says otherwise. I'm like, yep, I'm I'm on your side. We're all gonna
Yep.
die, but I'm on your side.
Yep.
um, so yeah, I think that's why Silco is my favorite character, because he was that father figure that didn't intend on being that. That's why I love Joel as much as I do in The Last of Us, and
Yeah.
Logan in Logan and stuff like that. Like anytime there's a father figure who's like, ah, do you know what? Screw it. Fuck the world. I'm gonna protect you over everyone else. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes.
I like those characters too because I can very much relate. I mean, I can't relate to the not wanting to be a parent part because I chose to be a parent.
Sweet.
But well, I mean, it wasn't planned to have him, but like, I didn't like get pregnant and be like, I don't want this kid at any point. Um,
Hmm.
I wish obviously I was only 19, so that's pretty early on to have like my life decided for me kind of thing. But I just kind of figured that me and his dad would figure it out together, and that was kind of like what I was led to believe. And I think I was a little bit naive in that sense, but like there wasn't a point where I was just like, yeah, I don't want you. If that makes any sense, I'm rambling now.
No, no, I get you. I was
Yeah,
just wondering just how much you were going to say. That's all.
yeah, no. No, yeah, I was just bit naive, thought things would work out and they didn't. And then obviously as I've gotten older, I realised like I did have a lot of naive thoughts about what being a parent is. So I can very much relate to the having an expectation of how you are with kids, and then like when you actually have them or you become responsible for them, it definitely changes and is not what you thought it was. I guess that's what I can relate to.
Mm.
You do basically get a sense of no, I will kill everybody to keep you safe.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I as soon as like no joke when I was playing The Last of Us Part One for the first time with my dad, is like as
Yeah.
soon as we came to that operation room, I didn't even hesitate. I just shot the guy, burned everyone else, and
Yeah,
took
it's like
Ellie out.
kill everybody.
And
Yeah.
I reveled in it. Like I just
Yeah.
took the most heinous way of killing them and then enacted it. It was horrendous, and I loved it.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, like anytime there's a parent and a little man, and the parent is doing everything they can to protect them, I'm almost always on their side. It's very rare I'm against them.
Yeah.
Vander, love him, but taken too soon. I wish he was in more. Oh,
Yeah. I got the feeling he was gonna die pretty
yeah,
early on.
he was very much the Obi-Wan of
I
this.
was like, you have so many death flags, mate.
Yeah,
It
it's
kind of
like
reminded me of Ruby because every time I watch a season of Ruby, I'm like, this person has death flags, and I'm like, oh look, they died.
shocking.
Yeah, it's always one of my favorite characters. It happens to as well. It's like,
Yeah.
so I get panicky when they start having death flags because there's been a few times with like one of my favorite characters. She's basically a female version of Thor.
Wait, we're talking
Um,
about Ruby here.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, one of my favorite characters. She's basically a female version of Thor, and like there were a few times where she was having some death flags, and I was like, stop it. She didn't die, like, thankfully, but I don't know. We've got some more seasons to go. I feel like Ruby may never end at this point.
God, I'm surprised she's still going, to be honest.
Yep.
Oh, oh yeah,
But
Attack on
yeah,
Titan started
so many
today.
death flags.
And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like,
We're supposed to be done with it by now.
that was the plan, so that we can watch
Uh,
together, but life finds a way, I hear. Oh
oh,
well.
yeah,
Just means that we don't have to rush it when we watch it. That's all.
that's true. Uh,
Oh.
anyway, yeah.
But
Sorry, Vanda's death flags were giving me Ruby flashbacks.
but yeah, Vanda was a really cool character. Especially when considering the fact that you got the history where he was the rebel without a cause kind of thing going on, where he was fighting just and trying his best to free the Undercity, and now he's kind of like, well, I say now, but in the context of when he's alive now,
Yeah,
he's uh, trying to make sure that there's no conflict, so the most amount of positive can come as opposed to absolute positive. Willing to take a couple of losses for the greater good so that more people will be all right rather than not. So the fact that he was put in a situation where it's either his kids or him or the future of the Undercity was a really interesting dilemma to put him in.
yeah,
Yeah, so um in a way I was slightly I'm glad that he decided to go, right, I'm gonna sacrifice myself in order to do it. It would, in a weird way, I would have been like, I would have been interested to see what it would have been like if he lived and he got caught and was imprisoned, to see how the Undercity would rally behind him so that they'll try to set him free. Maybe a second war breaks out between the two cities, kind of thing. But that's a what if, that'll never happen. So they'll just remain in
yeah.
fan fiction land forever.
True.
Yeah,
He
Vander.
did.
True. Vander, good. I like him.
Yeah,
Big
I like
thumbs
him.
up.
Hmm.
Um,
We talked about
by...
To be fair, we
Oh,
talked about why we like them, dislike them. We didn't really talk about them, or is that just what we're doing? Just whether like what we like and don't like about them.
um, what was the first part again? We talked a lot about why we like them, why we don't like them.
Yeah,
What was the next part?
but I was just saying, but did we want to talk about them, like what they go through and stuff, or
Yeah, yeah.
I
If there's
done
something
talking
you want
about
to talk about specifically with regards to what they go through, I'm happy to talk about it. I mean, we did
them?
do it kind of vaguely, but like
Yeah,
Caitlyn and the competition and the first place, second place tism, so I'm more than happy to talk about certain events in their lives.
yeah. I mean, I can't think of any in particular right now. I was just wondering if you had anything else to say.
Um, hey, look, you know how it is with us. You never know what's gonna happen in terms of what we talk
Tangent.
about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the most interesting part about one of the more interesting parts about Vander was the conversation he has with the enforcer and pawn shop guy. Fuck, I'm forgetting his name. Um, where they're having the conversation. It's like, okay, look, I need someone, and Vander is kind of negotiating, saying, "No, like, give me time," or like, I can't give them up, or something like that. That was a
Yeah.
really interesting conversation that I wish lasted a minute or two longer, so that we get a lot more time to marinate on the scene and really get the context behind everything instead of that was a scene I wish lasted 2 minutes longer than it lasted. Unfortunately, there's a lot of scenes like that in the show. Like, no, just a little bit more, please. Um,
Yeah.
I think the worst offender of that was when um, Heimerdinger goes to the big tree with Echo. And it's like, oh my god, there's this big revelatory moment. And then 3 seconds later, it cuts back to the death and destruction in the Undercity. And I'm like, no,
Yeah. It's like
but no.
explode.
Like, can we spend a little more time there? There's something interesting happening.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I like Heimerdinger. I
I
like his
loved
pet. I
Heimerdinger.
can't remember what his pet's called. But so cute.
I
Like
just called
got
it
a
a puffin.
weird like yeah, it's a fluff ball, isn't it? It's just so cute. I've
Like,
forgotten what they're called, but their name's equally cute.
fair. um, a gloop. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I just love it. I don't know. I just love the little ball of floof. I'm just like, I want one.
Heimerdinger was an interesting character, but I thought they severely underutilized him in so many ways.
Yeah. He was not in it very often.
No, and when he was, it was the same conversation over and over again. It's like,
Yeah.
this technology is bad. And then 5 minutes later, nah,
Technology,
good
magic,
bro,
bad.
well done. And then
It's
next
like, don't
episode,
do this, it's
nah,
bad.
this is bad. 5 minutes later, well done, bro. It's like, oh my god, okay.
And the next minute, it's like, I told you it was bad. And it's like, dude, make up your mind. Is it bad or not?
I think the only time he consistently said it was bad was regarding the Rubik's Cube that Victor was working on. Like, nah, it's bad, destroy it. I'm consistent with that.
Yeah. This is bad, get rid of it. It's like, you know they're not gonna get rid of it. You know they just did whatever they wanted before. Why do you think they're gonna listen to you this time, man?
Yeah.
They're not. They're too arrogant for their own good. They're like, no, our magic's gonna make everything better. It's already made everything better. And then it's like, yeah, evil Rubik's Cube. It's like, no, this is going to cause Hellraiser to come out.
Oh
It's
my god.
bad.
The crossover we all need. Fucking
Yeah,
Pinhead in
yeah.
Arcane. Like, pain is pleasure. Imagine Pinhead and Jinx having a conversation. I would pay to
Oh
see that.
god, that'd be great.
Oh.
Oh,
You know what I
fun.
recently found out?
What?
Pinhead in the book was a woman. And I'm like,
That's cool.
my god, the context and everything would be so different if that's the case. It would be far more erotic. All that leather, the pins. the torture, the bondage. Oh my god. There's there's an erotica out there of that, I'm sure. Actually, I'm sure there
Yeah,
is.
there almost definitely is
I think I've seen it.
somewhere. I watched it. There was a Rick and Morty episode, and I think it was like taking the mick out of Hellraiser, but in like a homage kind of way, not like in a we don't like this property kind of way. You know,
Oh,
like how
interesting.
Family Guy will just go at something that it doesn't like. It's just like we get it. You don't like this thing.
Yeah. Like, I never understood Family Guy humor. Ever. Or
I don't
Family Guy
know
in
how I
general.
ever watched it. Like I used to watch it so much, and like I've gone back to it now and gone, man, I had no sense of humor when I was a teenager, just none.
uh, but hey, at least you liked
I have
Men in
some taste
Tights.
now. That's true. I've always liked that as well.
I haven't seen it in so long. I think it's due a rewatch.
Oh yeah, it's 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 still really funny, but there's still some jokes where it's like that did not age well. But it's like this was made in '93, so it's bound to like. I think it has about 3 jokes that haven't aged well, and I think for '93, that's pretty good.
Blazing Saddles though, that had so many jokes that aren't okay today.
Oh no, yeah. I actually never watched Blazing Saddles, but yeah, I can
Ooh.
imagine. Mel Brooks had some
He was
pretty
an edge
racy
boy back in the
humor.
day.
Yeah, he was edgy boy. So yeah, there's one joke where I was just like, I get why you've put it in there because that was fun to make fun of people like that at the time, but like it's not funny, and it's just an unnecessary scene. And I'm like, just from a filmmaker standpoint, I'm like, why is this here?
Fair enough. I asked
It's
that
a really stupid joke, but
I ask myself that question most times I watch something
why is this
Disney.
here?
Why is this here? Why is this happening?
Yeah,
Why is there another Boba Fett show? Why? Just why is any of
yeah.
this?
Why is there
uh,
any more Star Wars shows? Why?
uh, you know, the only thing I'm happy about the fact that there are more Star Wars shows is because Mauler reacts to them, and I'm like, yep, I'm happy watching him
Like,
watch
I'm
it.
here for this. Yeah,
Yeah, because
he's watching it, so you don't have to.
was oh my god, the nostalgia critic, Jesus.
Ew.
God, I used to watch him loads back in the day, and I watch some of those videos now. I'm like, why though?
You watch them and you're like, what the heck? This was funny? No?
Yeah, it's a dark time in life when I watched Nostalgia
Yeah.
Critic. Jeez.
Okay, so how you feel about Nostalgia Critics probably how I feel about Family Guy, because I used to watch it a bunch, but now I watch it, I'm like, why the... What? It's not even
Hmm.
funny!
I
I think Family Guy has one joke that's pretty funny, and
don't
then
know.
I'm failing to remember it. So maybe I just pretended that it was a good joke just to deal with it.
It was good enough,
It was
and that's
good. It
all.
was it passed the basic test of what is funny. I think.
Yeah. So we've spoken about Vi to a certain degree. We've spoken about
Yeah,
Caitlyn. Caitlyn, did we speak in depth?
not really. I don't think we went too much in depth on Vi, but like,
I think we
there's not
both
really too
agreed that,
much to say.
yeah,
She's
we both
her
agreed that she
main
was.
arc is I am Big Sister. I am sad that I had a fight with Big Sister, and now my little sister hates me.
Yeah,
And I
I
mean,
think,
I can't blame Jinx because I'd be like, I'd fucking hate you too if you were my sister. No offense.
yeah, I think we
to go
both
in,
agreed. Oh, go on.
as I said, to go into detail, basically she blames her for a bunch of people dying, and that's a lot to put on a kid. Now you
Yeah.
may continue.
Now I think we both agree that at the top of the video that yeah, Vi is probably the least developed character so far, and hopefully season 2 rectifies that somewhat.
hmm
It's like Eren in Attack on Titan, where he's the least developed character throughout seasons 1 and 2,
Yep.
and I
True.
will not say if it improves or not.
Okay, that's fair. But everyone else around him seems way more interesting. Like it's been a while, so
Sasha.
I don't. I don't
Potato
remember
Girl.
people's names. Potato Girl is like so good. I wanted to see more of her, so when she came back, I was like, Potato Girl!
Hooah. Um, yeah, oh my god, like, this is regarding something that happens in I think it was episode
Oh well.
9.
Flip flopping everywhere anyway.
S- Sorry?
I said we're flip flopping everywhere anyway.
Yeah, pretty
Might as
much.
well. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Sorry, I
Um,
moved my mic closer.
um, one of the weirdest things that happened with Vi, I think it was in episode 9 when she was fighting Silco's henchman, the one with the lightsaber for an arm.
Oh yeah. I thought that was a cool fight.
Fair enough.
Don't know. I'm assuming you did not think it
I
was a cool fight.
I didn't like. I think the only fights I liked were Jinx's ones because I get why they were done that way. Everyone else's
Oh,
fights were
fair.
really disappointing.
Oh, I
um,
like the one with the arm.
like that one, that was a fight that was filmed. I say filmed, but animated and edited like a Jinx fight, and Jinx wasn't in that fight. That's why I didn't
Mm,
like it because there
that's
was
fair.
really, for example, you had a heavy hitter like Vi, and you had fuck, I keep forgetting Silco's henchman's name.
I know
Um,
the one you mean, but yeah.
yeah, but you got two heavy hitters going up against each other. Instead of having this really quirky country music and having really absurd cuts and you know shots where it's like, oh, wasn't this funny? Ha ha. I would have really liked. Um, do you remember the first fight in Infinity War where Hulk and Thanos just goes on a fist fight with each other?
Yes.
Something
Hulk
like
just
that.
gets owned.
Yeah, where it was a back and forth for like a minute and then like this asking a lot. I understand. But like a oneer of them fighting and just each blow like landing with a thud. I would have really liked that considering the two
Yeah.
characters we've got. But then it wasn't. Instead, it was like a Jinx fight, and I'm like, why? So I I saw the potential of that fight, and I was left disappointed as a result.
Yeah. I'm just looking for it now so I can like watch it again.
I
But
can't
like
remember if it's episode 8 or 9, but I think it was 9 actually. It was just after she left Jace in the factory.
yeah. I think it's very easy for me to enjoy fights. I don't know why, I just kinda sometimes I just zone out and just
Fair enough. Like
but like
I'll go
I
on.
was invested in the fight, so that's probably why it didn't bother me as much. And I
Uh,
thought it was cool.
invested in what way? Do you mean invested in character
In
or
character.
okay?
Because I wanted Vi to win, because I was just like, kick their ass.
Yeah, fair. Um,
So
no, I do realize I have pretty high expectations of fights. Um, I thought it was I don't know what the production process of this was, so maybe it was just a matter of time, or maybe it was if it was a creative choice, I would like to say it was the wrong choice. That's all I'll say. Um, because like there was I think it was it that fight or the fight after with Vi? I can't. It was that fight in particular, actually. Yeah, where she was on the floor and she's bleeding out, and she has the flashback to Vander saying, "Yeah, sometimes you gotta put your guard up." And then it's like I get the moment they were going for, where it's like you finally put your defenses up and you finally start to fight properly. And I'm like, I get the moment they were going for. I do. I get the theme. I get the visual. But are you really telling me that it took her all these years to figure out that putting your hands up means a good block? I
yeah,
mean,
fair, I'll give you that one.
like, I was kind of laughing at the moment when it was meant to be like a really like upbeat moment where she was, taking charge of the situation. But I'm like, why it took you like 10 years to figure out that blocking's a good idea. I can't take you seriously right now.
Yeah, that's fair. I just found a scene where Silco's being a typical bad guy sitting in his chair looking menacing.
Oh man, there's a lot of those, I gotta admit. There were
That's
way
what
too
I
many.
mean by there's too many of it. It's just like, oh, he's in his chair again. Better watch out. Oh no, he's posing menacingly. Run away.
One, you know what, I said Silco is my favorite character. One scene I really did not like of him is in episode 5 after the tower fell down and his shimmer infused bros were trapped underneath and Vi escapes and he
Oh
just
yeah.
loses his shit and starts kicking the shit out of them instead. I'm like, that
What?
felt very
That's
anti-Silco to me.
that's a very Kylo Ren move there.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, hello, Kylo. I missed you. Kind of.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't. Um,
No.
oh my god. And Kylo, man, I liked his design, but god damn, they
Oh
didn't know what to do
yeah.
with him.
I remember when we first got showed what he'd look like, it was like, wow, he looks scary. And then you actually watch the film and you're like, no, this is a teenager throwing a tantrum.
Yeah, he's just an edgelord.
Literally,
It's fine. Just leave him alone for a couple of minutes. He'll chill
yeah.
out.
There's like literally all of the guards, that run in and he's like, he doesn't even force choke them. He just like starts taking it out on the equipment. And I'm like, dude, you guys could take him. Literally, just go, one of you just go and lightsaber him from behind or shoot him from behind and he'll be dead. Fine. It's
Ugh,
very funny. It's very funny when you like get to the actual films because it's like this guy is an idiot. How are
yeah.
you in charge?
Why are you in charge?
Are you in charge because of nepotism? Are you in charge because you were like, Darth Vader was my granddad? Okay, well, we'll put you in charge then. This has turned into a Star Wars rant.
Oh god. Oh yeah, like, do you know what? I'll tell you. I'll ask you after after we're done recording because it's
Okay.
related to the pitch thing that we were planning on doing. So
Oh, yeah, okay.
if I forget, I'll just message you.
Yeah, no worries.
Shrewd. Um, but yeah, that fight and that moment with Vi, that was comical in a lot of ways. But what that moment, the moment that came after was good. So I'm like, okay, fine, it's cool, fine. You can have your big moment where you learn defense in a fist fight, sure. I would have much rather preferred if she was put into a position where she's going all out, fighting away, and then I don't know, Caitlyn or
Oh, Panda.
literally anyone was also being attacked. So rather than fighting, going on the offensive, and leaving the companion behind, she decides, no, come back on the defensive, make sure you're protecting something behind you instead of just charging at the enemy and learning the importance of fighting for something and putting your fists up to defend instead of just charging. Like, I would have much rather preferred that because thematically it's sound because it's bringing her character into a somewhat of an arc with regards to her fighting, at least, because up until now we've seen her jump head forward into a fight every single time with no regard for anyone else. So having a moment where she thinks of Vander's words of, hey, sometimes you gotta put your fists up, and her interpretation of that is to literally defend someone instead of going off into the attack and leaving everyone else behind. Like, I would have much rather preferred that in episode 9 than
Yeah.
literally put your
Honestly,
fists up.
I'm remembering now, I literally got sucked in by the rule of cool because this is a really cool fight.
It's a cool fight. It is, I'll give it that. All the fights in this show are really cool. It's got a lot of style.
Yeah.
But then me being Scrooge
Yeah.
McDuck over here.
And yeah. No, I can see a reason. And also, I really like that there's not loads of cutting every 5 seconds because you can actually see what's happening.
Oh, thank God. Like,
So, like, I feel like that sucks that I'm being like, it did the bare minimum, guys. But like, so many action films now is like they cut every freaking second, and it's like, are you trying to cut on the same beat as the music? Is that why it's fast?
no.
And like, it's not working if that's the case.
Genuinely, The Boys was the worst for that.
I know.
Oh, but I will give the show this. The action was pretty tight. Um, I think my favorite fight was probably the one with Echo and Jinx on the bridge. That one was sweet.
Yeah, that was really cool because it was like you get to see them as like kids as well because they used to fight as kids, didn't they?
Yeah, and I'm like,
Like this time though, one of you's gonna die. I mean,
which
obviously,
fuck, that was so much plot armor in that
I
fight
was
though.
like, yeah, I was like, I mean, I actually did think they'd killed off that we. Bleh. I did think they'd killed off Echo, but I was like, to Ryan, I was like, Echo's in League of Legends, isn't he? And he was like, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, so he's not gonna die then.
But then it's like,
Or is he? He could die. We don't know.
the only thing he got was a sprained ankle, and I'm like, are you fucking with me? That's not how a grenade works. And then you see
Yeah,
Jinx like limbs falling off, and then he just got a sprained ankle. I'm like, what? What? Oh, that Heimerdinger fighting him under the bridge with just a twisted ankle. I was like, no, no.
yeah, no, that's a far too much plot armor.
Um,
But yeah,
God
during the
damn.
fight though, I genuinely thought he was gonna die because I thought
Yeah.
he's gonna let up because I think he had a little bit of a crush on Jinx. Um,
I thought he was
that's just
gonna let up, which is why I was surprised he went
yeah,
for the kill.
yeah. I thought he was gonna let up and she's gonna because things trigger her easily. So I was like, she's gonna get triggered and she's gonna kill him and she's gonna regret it, but it's gonna be too late because she's been triggered and it's happened.
Mm. And
I
she'll
like
add
I
him
can
to her collection of soft toys
yeah.
of friends.
Yeah. I can relate to that though because I get triggered and then I'll have like obviously I won't kill anybody.
Oh my.
Um but like if I get
So you
triggered
say.
I do sometimes have mood swings that I'm still learning to control. And they're not that bad, but like sometimes they'll make me shout and then it's too late. It's happened. So it's one of them.
I mean,
I feel
everyone's
like
got
that's what
trigger
happens.
points.
Yeah. No, no. I feel like that's what happens with her though. She gets triggered and it makes causes violent tendencies. Obviously, I don't get violent tendencies. I just have kind of mood swings, and I just go and have a mood swing, and I'm fine. But she can't do that. She's just like violent tendency. Oh no.
Yeah. Like, when I was watching that fight, I was like, so someone's seen Naruto Shippuden. Well done. Because there's a fight between two characters in Naruto, which is very similar, where they intercut the past and the present, and the fighting is identical, and it ends up being, like, really tragic at the end. And
Yeah, that's cool.
this one, it wasn't really tragic because they were both
No one
fine.
died. Yeah, they
It
were
was
fine
okay.
afterwards. It was kind of sad that they were fighting each other when they were on the same team once, but it was like they're fine.
This is another reason why I would have preferred like a 25 episode series, because then you get to spend like 7 20-minute episodes in the past where you get to see that fight in the past, and then they bring it back, intercut it with the present day, and then have it seamless. And you see, look at what once was, and
Yeah,
now look at where things are, kind of thing.
yeah. Because I think they have like one interaction as kids, and it's very
If
short.
that.
It's like, "Hello, hi."
Hello, I exist. So do I.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I'll see you in 10
But
episodes.
see you later when we actually have some character development. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Although Echo doesn't get very much character development really.
Echoes probably had the
I feel
biggest
like he's a
change,
side
but the
character.
least amount of development.
Yeah. It's like, ta-da! I have changed now. Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, okay, I'll take your word for it. um, I think where he was living was probably the most interesting in terms of a cultural perspective, because I'm like, ooh, this
Mm.
is really interesting. What do you do? How do you do it? Why do you do it? There's a lot of interesting things there. But we're gonna, hi, we exist. Bye. 3 episodes
Yeah.
later, hello again. Where have you been?
Yeah, I really do think time was an issue there with some characters, and there's, like I said, there's many characters.
Hmm.
Some of them are probably not going to get as much development, but at least they're like giving them some development because he still has motives and things like that because he wants to keep his,
I
the
would
little
say
rebellious place that he's kept safe.
his motivation is stronger than Vi's,
Mm.
easily.
So like every character, even the somewhat side characters, I can't remember her name, but the lady who decides to seduce Jace,
Mel?
I think that's her name.
Yeah, Mel.
But yeah, she gets like backstory and stuff, and I'm not too sure if she is a character you can play. I'm assuming she is because she's in this. Be a bit weird if she was in this and you can't play her in
Who
League of Legends, but
knows?
I don't know. I've never played the game. I'm just going off what my partner has told me because yeah,
If memory serves, you know the Japanese dude with the gold jaw? I think he was an
yeah,
original character because Miyavi was involved in the soundtrack. So it's like, hey, we've got Miyavi, we may as well use him. So I think that's a character specifically made for him. So
gotcha.
there may be more characters that may be original to the show that we don't know of because we're not big
Yeah,
into
maybe.
League of Legends.
Yeah, but yeah, basically, even she got some character because we found out why she's the way she is. She just wants
Hmm.
power, but she also really likes Jace.
She's
Because at
sort of
first I thought, oh, she was just doing that to get him to do what she wanted, but then no, they actually like, go into a relationship after that. So I'm like, oh, so yeah, she does actually like him. Okay, cool.
I think she was really interesting because at the start you think, oh, she just wants power for power's sake, but the
Yeah,
further on it gets like, oh no, she wants power, but also she wants power so that she can protect people, unlike her
yep,
mother who just decapitates people. It's like,
yeah.
okay.
Like, yep, no,
So,
they die. And I was like, oh my
hmm.
god. I do love how she just straight up is like, hello, Jason. She's like fully naked and like,
And Jace is just like, I'm
yeah.
trying to be modest here, please.
I'm trying not to.
Um,
I get
like,
the feeling she's probably done this before to other like potential relationships
ah,
because the way Mel's just like, oh, she's done it again.
oh, absolutely. Like it's a really strong power play if you're a politician to just make sure that the others are uncomfortable so that you can manipulate them. So absolutely, she's
Yeah.
done it before.
It's like I'm just gonna get naked because it makes people uncomfortable.
What was it? That one Sherlock episode where Irene Adler was naked and he was like freaking out because he
Yeah.
can't read her. It's like, okay, look at Watson. What do I see? Okay, so it is working. God damn it, woman, wear something so I can tell what you're thinking. Um, God, I was going to say something about. Oh yeah, that flashback scene with Mel when she got the choice of sparing or killing the
Yeah.
like it was. It was really bad because when the mother said, "Oh, what should we do with her?" I went torture her for information and then kill her. And then she's like, "We should be compassionate." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, well yeah, we can do that
Yeah.
too."
You're like, we could do that, maybe. Yeah.
Uh,
It's all right. I think I scared, right? Because do you know when I thought she was just gonna sleep with you? I was like, she could sleep with him, and while they're sleeping together, she could kill him. That's what I would do. And he just looked at me like, I don't think I want to sleep in the same bed as you tonight. And I was like, it's fine. I won't do it to you
Yet.
unless you do my head in. I'm just kidding.
But it's like, and it's at that moment I realized, wow, I would have done really well in this particular family. I'm like,
Yeah, you'd be like promoted
oh,
immediately to just like best in the family.
yeah, because like the mother missed the trick, you know, because like, yeah, torture them for information first, because she's a royal, she knows where the hiding places are. If there's an insurrection, bang, you know where to hit, just in case. Just make sure you get that out of her, you know. Why just
Yeah,
kill her? Send a
get
message.
some information.
Yeah, you got to be smart when you're torturing people.
Yep.
Oh my god. This is-
Disclaimer: we do not kidnap and torture people. Honest.
Nor do we support it
Definitely not.
much.
This
Unless
has
it's in a
been
video
a
game.
joke. Yeah.
Oh my god, I remember I was playing The Last of Us Part 2 the first time, and it was that moment when Ellie had that woman in the basement of the hospital, and there's red lights all over the place, and she's dying and beating her up. And I'm like, no, Ellie, ask her for information first. No, Ellie,
Yeah.
not the head, not the head. They get woozy. Remember, he's legend. No, go for the leg,
Yeah.
the knee. Break the knee. People will talk after that. I promise. And I'm just like giving Ellie suggestions, and I'm frustrated she's not taking any of it. Oh. So what this episode of the podcast has proved is that I am an absolute insane person.
Yeah. I knew that
Um,
already.
oh my.
No. Why do you think we get on so well? I'm kidding.
Oh my god. Oh. Yeah, I
No,
like Mel.
this what most podcasts prove is that I have a horrible case of ADHD brain and it goes everywhere.
Yeah,
But we like
and
that. We
yeah,
like that for us.
who knows where we end up going. I
Exactly.
mean, we were talking about Star Wars and Kylo Ren for a couple of minutes, so
Yeah, you gotta mix it up though. You gotta have the comparison for some humor.
absolutely. And there's nothing better to laugh at than Disney.
Oh yeah,
Modern day Disney, at least.
hilarious. Yeah. To be fair though, I do like Encanto. That was a good movie. They put out a good
Fair enough.
movie.
Fair enough.
But
I
yeah,
can't remember the
they
last Disney
own
thing I watched.
everything. They
Yeah.
own everything, so they're bound to make some bad stuff.
I mean, I think it's a matter of, they own everything, so they're bound to make something good eventually.
Well, you would think so.
Yeah. Mel, good, is our conclusion.
Yeah. And I didn't like her at first because I was like, you just want power, you suck, you're boring. And then I was like, oh, okay, maybe not.
Genuinely, like, that was a really interesting subversion.
Yes,
Oof,
I like it
burp.
when things do that.
Yeah, because, like, I think, like, I don't know if you would think the same thing, but I thought, oh, she was manipulating Jace so that when he was in power, she would backstab him and take the throne for herself, kind of thing. But no, she just genuinely wanted to keep people safe, and I'm like, oh, yeah,
That's a
I can see
fair
that.
reason.
Yeah, good. Because I think I actively disliked her, and then by
Yeah,
the end of the
same.
show, I'm like, yep, you're good. You're a good one.
Yep. I genuinely felt bad because I was like, oh, you're all gonna get blasted.
Oh, they'll all survive though. I don't know how, but they will.
Somehow. Just about by the skin of their
Oh,
teeth.
maybe Victor will turn into a mechanical tism and take the blast for everyone.
Maybe, but I think he's gonna be a bad guy. So I think he might just be like, everybody can die, it's fine.
I know. Like maybe that could be the trigger where it's like, nah, do you know what? We do have to attack, and Jace is like, no, we don't, and that causes the rift. He turns evil, kind of thing, because
Yeah.
of the outright direct attack.
Yeah. True.
A lot of possibilities open, so who knows where they go. Do you know what? Heimerdinger, like again, so disappointed that he didn't get to do more. And just on the verge of him getting to do something interesting with Echo. No, it's next season. And I'm like, fuck. Um, yeah, I
They
think.
gotta make us want to watch it more.
Sorry.
They've got to make us want to watch it more. Got to have some hanging plot threads there.
No, I mean like considering how sagely Heimerdinger is and how much knowledge he has, and like he was the Yoda of the show essentially,
Yeah.
and he wasn't given enough to like Yoda had significantly less screen time and did so much more in the original trilogy, but Heimerdinger had like 6 times more time and still did barely anything,
No, like you said, you had
unfortunately.
the same conversation. He was like, magic and technology, bad. In fact, it was just like straight up like magic bad at first.
Mm.
And then it was like, oh, yay, you did it, you made it work. This is bad. Very bad.
And you know what, seeing his flashback and all the you know destruction around him, I'm like, ooh, do you know what, that seems interesting, can we see that?
Yeah, it's like
No, okay.
can you because like it's like with Mel's character, it was power. I was like, can we see why she wants power so much? Because obviously, if they'd never shown us that or given a reason, it would be like, you're boring. You just want power for no reason. I dislike you very much.
But then we got that justification, and we were like,
Yeah.
yep.
So if you give us like why Heimerdinger is so much like, no, this is bad. It made people die, and then show us the situation that made people die, then we're gonna be like, oh my god, he's right, guys, stop it. But
Yep.
no, like they never show that. It's just him constantly going, "There was a giant massacre, and that's why you shouldn't use magic." And it's like, but but you're just telling us there's a giant massacre. Can we see the giant massacre?
Like, I get his function within the narrative where he's the old god that is trying to keep everyone safe from history because he is literally older than everyone else there, maybe even combined.
Hmm.
And seeing all the younguns come up and say, nah, we want progress, we want to go on and do things. And Heimdinger's like, nah, chill out. Like, I get his um, purpose in the narrative. It's just that the purpose wasn't well utilized, unfortunately.
Yep,
Um, Shame,
agreed.
really. Because he was, for a 300-year-old man, he was real fucking cute.
Yeah, it was very cute. And all I can think of is, you know, the bit in Hot Fuzz where he goes shame and just cocks his gun. I can't remember the exact scene, but it's a meme now.
Oof,
It's just a screenshot of the character saying shame. But when you said shame, it just reminded me of that. Anyway,
I'm
I'll show
blanking
you
on
the
that,
meme.
actually.
I'll show you the meme later.
Alright, cool. Um, God, Hot Fuzz is such a good movie.
It's my one of my favorite movies.
um, Jace. We've barely talked about Jace, actually.
Yeah, let's talk about Jace.
um, he had, I think he had the most predictable arc out of
Yeah.
everyone, all things considered. And okay, speaking of Jace and Vi in a fight, got another big issue with episode 8. That big
Mhm.
fight scene where I can't remember the name of the song, but I know it's Miyavi who does it because I always know his guitar. But they're in the factory and there's enforcers all the way around. And then the kid does what the kid in the raid did and woke everyone up. Which, why the fuck was the kid there in the first place, considering your mother's a warlord? Just fucking why? Um,
Because he had to die to piss everybody off.
I know. That didn't make sense all that much. But then the Shimmer Bros woke up and just went Super Saiyan and killed most of the enforcers. And I'm like, oh, okay, so Jace is going to be in a lot of trouble and Vi is going to be really pushed back because these guys are real fast and they're boosted up on steroids. And Jace is slow with a big fuck off hammer. And Vi's got two mechanical boxing gloves. So how? Oh, they're fighting toe to toe. Okay, and that just made such a big disconnect. I'm like, you guys are so fast that you killed all the guards within seconds, but you're having trouble with these two. How? you know, like it was a cool fight, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, none of this is making sense considering what you just showed us. Like, at least if they said, oh, they overwhelmed them through sheer numbers, I can get behind it. But when you're, it's like the Flash fighting Batman on equal footing. It's a bit ludicrous, you know? Like you're so fast, but Batman is just like beating you at the same speed. That makes no sense to me. So I get the visual, but no, that was very poorly executed.
I'll take your word for it because I'm like not remembering this fight very well.
It was the
I
first
think,
time
yeah,
Vi and Jace teamed up and fought together.
yeah, I've got it on screen now. I just don't remember it that well.
Okay.
I guess that proves it. It wasn't a very memorable fight for me.
Like the
The
best
two
part about
memorable ones were the ones with the person who has the arm. Still don't know that name. I'll look it up, maybe. Yeah. just for posterity. Okay, I'll look it up.
Oh my god.
But yeah, oh yeah, this is entirely just cool factor, but like again, not very memorable for me. I mean, I guess the memorable part is just Vi putting the gloves on because those are her signature gloves. So I'm told.
Fair. But
So it's fan service a little bit, I think.
definitely. Like even I've seen Jace and that big fuck off hammer of his.
Yeah,
So yeah, like I it was meant to be like, oh, look at the danger they're in. Oh, look at how cool this fight is. Aren't they so awesome that they're fighting them? But it's like, you made the enemy so unrealistically powerful, and now you expect me to believe that these two non steroid up humans can keep up with them. And I'm like, no, it just does
yeah,
not compute.
agreed.
Um, but yeah, Jace uh, has the most predictable arc. I think we both agreed on that. But it's an interesting arc because even though like he starts off with nothing, ends up going to full on power, he still, even though he has cracks in his beliefs, he still comes out with the altruisticisms that he had at the very start, which I thought was a good. Like, I would have been okay either way if they went full on, we're going to war. I would have been okay with that as well, considering his arc. But the fact that he held true to his initial beliefs, even though he's in such a position of power, that was a really interesting play that I don't think many writers would have done. I think they would have just gone full on. I wanted peace once, now I don't. Boom, and then repeating the cycle of sorts.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry, which character were we talking about there then? Because I was looking up
Jace.
the. Yeah. What about Jay? Sorry, I missed like the first part of what you were saying.
um, I was just saying that a lot of writers may have had the temptation to make him go full on, let's go to war. But
Gotcha. Yeah.
this time around, they held true and made it so that his initial goal is to serve and protect above all else, and still had him serve and protect at all else, despite there being some chinks in the armor developed along the way.
Yeah. So the
um,
character with the arm is called Savika.
that's the name.
Yeah, she's a cool character.
I liked
She
her.
doesn't get very much. I liked her too. She doesn't get very much development, but like, I feel like she was a good foil for Vi, at least in that fight.
Yeah,
I mean, like she didn't. She doesn't have very much like motivation other than I'm just here to kick people's asses. But I guess you kind of get to see that she's more willing to follow where the power is.
I think there
But
was
that's
that
speculation.
temptation. There was that temptation when it looked like she was going to betray Silco for Miyavi. I'm just gonna call him Miyavi because that's who voices him. But the Asian dude with the golden jaw, when he was tempting her to join his side,
Yeah, it
and
looked like she was gonna just move.
yeah, and it is really interesting that she chose loyalty over power because, like, it would have been having her switch sides would have been the easy play, but having her
There's a
choose loyalty is a more character driven choice.
yeah. There's a character called Deckard in this show, and I just forgot about it. I just find that funny.
But, um, oh yeah, speaking of Jace and the final episode, is when they were in the council room in the final episode, it was like,
Mm.
we gotta have peace and we gotta make sure that they don't fight. We gotta maintain peace. Okay, and
Oh dear.
everyone was against it. I'm like, okay, we cut over and we have all the family drama with Vi and Jinx going on. And then we cut
Yeah.
back. Jinx has fired a big fuck off missile and everyone's going peace. And I'm like, what conversation happened that changed their mind? What happened?
I don't think it's a conversation. I think it's just we shot The missile. Oh no. Oh yeah. Like this is after she's fired the missile that goes
Yeah,
off. Yeah.
everyone's
Okay. Yeah.
raising their hand for peace, and
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like,
They're all like,
how did you convince them? They were so against it a minute ago. Oh, like
I reckon he threatened them, but the people who made this didn't want us to see that because we want us to think that he's all for peace. But I reckon he was like, I will get peace one way or another. He turned into what's his name?
he turned
Ah,
into a Cthulhu-esque monster and
no,
threatened them
no,
all.
no, no. I was gonna say he turned into the character from the Suicide Squad that's like, I will. I don't care how many men, women, and children I have to kill to
Peacekeeper.
get peace. That's it. He's peace. He turned into peacekeeper just for that one scene, so that everyone would be like, "Oh yeah, peace."
I just love Ratcatcher just going, and they call you Peacemaker. It's like
Yeah,
him and his tiny whiteies at night.
yeah.
Oh, it's such a fun movie.
It is. I'm excited for the Peacemaker show. It looks good.
Do you know what? I'm quite looking forward to it as well. It's a weird feeling. It's like, oh my god,
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to something, and it might be okay. Who knows? Oh, well, one way to find out, I guess.
Oh, yep.
We spoke about Vi, Caitlyn, Echo, Heimerdinger, Jace, Jinx, Mel, Silco, Vander. Is there anything you want to speak about Victor?
It was a cool character. Yeah. You know, I don't like the arc where the assistant always had a crush on him and he didn't do anything. Like, you're really telling me you didn't notice? Pretty obvious. But I guess we gotta have the drama.
Like, if you cut the assistant out of the show, it would have made
And
no difference.
changes. Yeah, she just exists. That's an annoying thing. She exists as a plot device and it's kind of mean. Like, I don't think you should do that to characters. But I think it was just literally to amp up the drama, and like I said, they need him to become a villain. And I feel like doing that was just like, well, obviously he's gonna be pissed off and want like to be mad about it. But then I thought it was a bit weird because it seemingly a few seconds later he was just like, I'll just accept it and it's fine.
That was a weird moment
So it's like,
because,
yeah,
in a way, he was going full on villain, but then that moment when she was literally turned to dust, he had that moment of, no, things have gone too far, we gotta destroy it, and he had the hero arc again, and I'm like, oof. So, in the
maybe we're
show,
gonna go back and forth on it, but yeah,
are we, as long as it's not a Kylo Ren situation where they just flip
no,
flop back and forth, just hopefully season two they'll pick one and just commit.
yeah. Well, as far as I know, in the video game, he is a villain,
Yeah, I
but
think
they could
that's the extent of
subvert
it I
that.
know.
They could subvert that, or like at least he doesn't look the way he looks in the show. He's got like a full suit on and he can use electric powers. So there is a possibility where they might just make him an anti-hero instead because I don't think he's outright a villain because no one's really a villain or a good guy in the game. You just there's just different. It's like a fighting game where you can just choose different characters, but it's not a fighting game obviously. I don't know too much about the game.
I
In case I haven't gathered.
I
Anyone
cannot
watching
speak for
this
the
who plays the
game.
game, they're just like, shut up. You know nothing about the game, why are you bringing it up? I'm just bringing it up because, like, it's things I've heard. So I'm just using the things I've heard to make predictions. I'm not saying that that's how it is in the game. In case anyone in the comments is like, shut up and stop talking about the game, you know nothing. I'm just like, alright, chill.
Fucking make me, bro.
Alright. I'll keep doing it. I'm just making a
um,
disclaimer and saying I'm not saying specifically this is how it is in the game. I'm just saying this is what I've been told.
yeah, fair
So
enough.
nah,
Like, I
nah,
can't
nah.
speak to the lore in the game at all. I just
Oh, me
know
neither.
some of the characters and their names and what they look like. That's about the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah,
Um,
but
so yeah.
yeah, it is cool the way he could potentially become a villain because it seems like he's very much. because obviously he's chronically ill, so he's obviously very much like keen to have like some change happen while he's still here. Because I'm guessing he believes he's gonna die soon. Like
Yeah,
at
it's
least there's
kind of
the
like a
vibe you get
Spider-Man
from
villain
him.
where they're desperate and they end up being the
Yeah.
villain.
Hell, if I could think of a way to cure my illness, I'd probably turn into a villain too. Like, absolutely. I'd be like, I can have a pain-free life. Yes, I will do all evil things.
I'd turn into a villain for shits and giggles. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a horrible person, but at least I know it. Um, yeah, we'll see. I mean, season two, doors wide open to do whatever they want in a lot of ways with regards to where they take this. So
True. I'm
yeah,
interested to see where it goes because he's a very cool character.
definitely. Um,
I
I think
felt
those
so
are.
bad for that big old dragon thing. I was just like, it kind of looked
Oh
like,
yeah, Pink Toothless.
yeah. I was like, oh my god, and then they they tortured it and made it feel bad. And I'm like, I love how before we were talking about torturing a human, and I was just like, ha, funny. This one, no. I'm just like, no, no, no. You can't do that. Can't do that to the cute animal. No.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's usually the way it goes, Like people are horrendous, so it's fine. Just torture them all you want. There's
Yeah,
plenty of us anyway.
true.
Um,
We like to repopulate.
yeah, I'll give it a couple of years. It'll be made up for.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something about Vi, but it just skipped my mind. Oh yeah, speaking of villains, like after the first episode, even based on the way they were behaving, genuinely I thought Vi was gonna be the villain and Jinx wasn't. But I was like, oh, you played it this way. Do you know what? Kudos, you got me. I'm happy. So yeah, because there were a lot of anger issues with Vi and the way she was behaving and the way she was treating people, and I was like, I can see villain material here. But then after the 3 episodes, I'm like, oh shit, okay, damn, you got me. Well done, and it makes sense.
Yep. I think
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense for Jinx because she was much younger and much more impressionable. And you've just had your sibling basically go, "I want nothing to do with you,"
Uh,
and
this
this
is first
dude.
episode, mind you.
Oh, yeah, no, no, I know. I'm just saying, like, it could have gone the other way if maybe Vi had been the one that like had been turned on, because obviously, don't forget, Jinx is someone who was just trying to help, and she got blamed for all the crap that went wrong, and then obviously this person is just like, "Join me, like I don't care what you've done," and like
Mhm.
basically welcoming. Of course, it's gonna. I feel like it's an interesting way of like if you push someone away, they are going to try and find solace and comfort possibly in the
Family
wrong
somewhere else
places.
wherever they can.
Yeah. They're just gonna want to fit in, so they'll probably just ignore any red flags or toxic behavior towards them because they just want to fit in. Again, like it's very hard not to relate to this because a big symptom of BPD is fear of abandonment, and that's very clearly what she has.
And ironic that the one person who accepted her for who she was and protected
Yeah.
her ends up being killed by her.
Yeah. But that just kind of goes to show like how unstable she's become and like confused and literally where she's just like I need to belong. And if she doesn't find somewhere she belongs, it's just ultimately just chaos from her.
Yeah.
Pretty
Like
cool.
that dinner scene, there was a
Oh,
comic.
that
Oh,
that evoked Batman so hard.
funny you mentioned that. I was gonna say there is a comic called Death of the Family.
Yes, I know. That's exactly what it reminded me of. I was sitting there going, "Oh my god, she turned into the Joker."
I'm like, I see what you did there,
I
Arcane.
was like,
I see.
well, she basically is Harley Quinn. I get it. Harley Quinn if she had a big giant machine gun.
Harley Quinn if she had a fucking personality
That
instead of
too.
just quirky. Oh.
I love Harley Quinn. She's my favorite character, but I can't argue with you.
Alright, it's fine. Like, I used to like Harley Quinn quite a bit because of her personality, but now
Mm,
because of her oversaturation, I'm like, oh, for fuck's I get it. Just leave me
yeah,
alone.
she's everywhere. I don't think I was really into it until I played the Arkham games, and then I was like, I love this character. So I think that iteration is ultimately my favorite
Fair. I
version of
think
her.
that's the best version, personally.
Mm,
Because there are some the comics go all over the place, and I don't recommend modern day comics. So yeah,
I don't mind the comics, but I definitely ultimately my favorite version of her is in the video game or the TV show that she's in because that's very good too.
fair enough.
And
Uh,
obviously the animated Batman series because she's good in that too.
oh, I mean the OG.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we've exhausted all the characters, unless I'm
yeah.
missing anyone.
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
I think that's it.
so yeah,
Everybody.
that's the characters.
The rest.
We've been going for an hour and a half, so I think it might be best to start the narrative next week.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. And that'll give time for me to rewatch it so I'm refreshed on the show. Because, um, yeah, it was interesting talking about the characters solely and how they were done well, how they were done poorly, and what they need, what they don't need specifically. It was interesting. It's different compared to what we usually do, where we go through the show verbatim or the film verbatim, minute by minute.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Right. In that case, any final thoughts before we say goodbye to the good people?
Um, no, brain empty. I'm done now. Bye bye.
Fair. Sounds good. Yeah, next week or the week after, who knows? We'll go through the narrative, go as far as we can, and take as much time as we need to go through all of it. So, if you're still watching, thank you very much. We very much appreciate you spending your time with us, and we'll speak to you next time. So, take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.